So we're going to cover some important key pointers here before we touch on why it's important to cover a statement of your intentions in the beginning, okay? So important pointers are that they are not doing you a favor by purchasing. We've covered this before, but I want to stress that their time is not more valuable than yours simply because they may or may not decide to give you money through a transaction, okay? Now, selling is also not you taking money from the customer, okay? It's not you taking money, giving them a product, and you winning, right? You're not selling a customer. In selling, a good salesman knows that you both win. You solve their problem, and then they compensate you accordingly for it, right? You both win. Two important things, always remember that. Now, it's also important to state your intentions when you're, going through the sale. Now, you want to be honest from the get-go. It's not about manipulation or selling tactics. You want to be honest from the get-go, set your expectations from the start, and tell them what your intentions are. So here's an example of this. My goal by the end of this training is to give you so much value that you decide to purchase the program. Now, when I used to have a free webinar before I realized that everybody was doing free webinars and I really didn't want to go that way with my business anymore, what I used to do is most people would literally try to act like it was a free webinar, right? Or they would try to act like it was like a live training, and they'd have like a simulated clock on the right and fake comments popping up, and it was clearly just a hoax in order to, manufacture urgency and value there in the webinar, right? Like other people were also interested and they only had a set period of time to go through it, right? Now, what I decided to do is I don't want to take my webinar like this when I used to run one. Instead, I was going to state my intentions from the start. And to my amazement, it actually worked better because I feel like it was a breath of fresh air, right? Customers were like, holy shit, this guy's being honest with me. He's telling me that his goal is to get me to purchase his program. He's not trying to pull any wool over my eyes or manipulate me. And what it did is it elicited one or two responses, right? If by literally starting the training off and being like, my goal by the end of this training is to give you so much freaking value that you decide yourself to purchase my program, right? They're either going to say, well, I don't want to purchase anything, I'm leaving, right? And then that's great because my webinar was timed, right? So I knew that you had to go through a certain period of time before you'd get retargeted with an ad on Facebook or on YouTube, right? Or they would stay and they'd be like, wow, if he's so confident in that and it's such a breath of fresh air that he's being honest with me, he's stating his intentions from the start, I'm curious. I want to see what kind of value he's going to give me, right? So it was a great way to kind of build that trust, build that know, like, and trust factor so that I could pre-qualify them and get them further into the content. Now, another example is my goal is to get you results in advance with this free tutorial because I know that if I can get you results up front, you'll think about coming back to do business with me in the future. Another great way to state your intentions. One more is my goal is to get you all the information you need so we can get you in the right vehicle that fits your needs and lifestyle today. Obviously those are great examples of stating your intentions because you're being honest, you're not manipulating, and you're literally telling them your goal, as a salesman, right? Your goal is to help them. Remember, like we talked about before, you are not doing them a favor. Their time is not more valuable. You would both win in this scenario if they're the right customer for your product, okay? Now, after you do state your intentions, you obviously want to follow that statement of intention up with a good leading question to start identifying their pain points or their problems. Now, assuming that they have not already been pre-qualified, right? So if you've already pre-qualified them through some of the techniques that we've covered previously, then you wouldn't obviously necessarily need to identify their pain points or their problem, but just keep that in mind. State your intentions, be honest from the get-go, then follow up that statement of intention with a good leading question to identify their pain points or problem.